The ship came out of nowhere. One moment, the sky above Proxima 7 was empty. The next moment, a vessel the size of a small city hung in the clouds. It was silver and gold, covered in symbols that no human had ever seen before. The colonists stopped their work and looked up. Children pointed at the sky. Soldiers grabbed their weapons and waited for orders. Admiral Park Do-hyun received the alert on his flagship 3 hours later. He read the message twice, then called his senior officers to the bridge. "They're here," he said simply. Everyone knew who they were. For 300 years, humanity had known they were not alone in the universe. They had found ruins on Mars. They had detected signals from distant stars. They had seen ships watching them from the edges of their solar systems. But the aliens had never made contact. They had only watched and waited. Now, finally, they had come. Dr. Yoon Mirai was the first human to board the alien vessel. She was a xenolinguist, a scientist who studied alien languages. She had spent her whole life preparing for this moment. Her hands were shaking as she walked through the golden corridors of the ship, but her voice was steady when she spoke. The aliens called themselves the Galaxy Council. They represented 200 species from across the galaxy. They had been watching humanity since humans first discovered fire. They had seen humans split the atom. They had seen humans reach for the stars. And now, they said, humanity was ready. Ready for what? Dr. Yoon asked. The council's ambassador was a creature that looked like a giant insect. It had 6 legs, 4 arms, and eyes that reflected light like mirrors. It called itself Vrelian, and it spoke in a voice like wind through dry leaves. "Ready to join us," the Vrelian said. "Ready to take your place among the stars." The news spread across human space in hours. People celebrated in the streets of Earth. They cheered on the colonies of Mars and Europa. They raised glasses on distant worlds that humans had only reached a generation ago. This was the moment they had dreamed of. First contact. An invitation to join a galactic civilization. President Kang Junho was more careful. He was a practical man who had spent 30 years in politics. He had learned to read the words that people did not say. So when the council presented their terms, he listened very carefully. "We offer humanity the status of protected species," the Vrelian ambassador explained. The ceremony was broadcast across every human world. Billions watched as the ambassador spoke. "You will have access to our trade networks. You will receive our protection from external threats. You will benefit from technologies that took other species millions of years to develop." President Kang nodded slowly. "And what do you ask in return?" "Only reasonable precautions," the ambassador said. "Your fleet will be limited to 100 vessels. You will share all technological developments with the Council for review. You will not expand beyond your current borders without Council approval. And you will accept a Council observer on each of your worlds." The president's expression did not change. "I see," he said. "We will need time to consider." "Of course. We have waited 300 years. We can wait a little longer." That night, President Kang called an emergency meeting. Admiral Park Do-hyun was there. Dr. Yoon Mirai was there. The leaders of every human colony were connected by video link. The president looked at the faces on the screens and the faces in the room. "Tell me what you think," he said. Admiral Park spoke first. "It's not an invitation. It's a leash." He pulled up data on the main screen. "I've had my intelligence team research every species that accepted protected status. 47 species in the last 10,000 years. Every single one of them followed the same pattern. First, they gave up military power. Then, they became dependent on council trade. Then, their populations declined. Then, they became footnotes, species that exist only in council records." Dr. Yoon Mirai nodded slowly. "The language supports this. In their tongue, protected species uses the same root word as domesticated animal. They don't see us as partners. They see us as pets. Or threats, Admiral Park added. Pets. That might bite. The room was quiet for a long moment. They're afraid of us, President Kang said. It was not a question. Yes, sir, the Admiral replied. That's exactly what this is. They've seen what we can do. They've seen how fast we grow and change. 1,000 years ago, we were killing each other with swords. Now, we have colonies on other stars. That terrifies them. So this offer is a cage, a comfortable cage with food and water and protection from the cold, but still a cage. President Kang stood and walked to the window. Outside, the lights of the capital city sparkled against the night sky. Above them, stars burned, stars that humans had already reached, and stars that humans still dreamed of reaching. What happens if we refuse? He asked. Admiral Park hesitated. I don't know, sir. No species has ever refused before. 3 days passed. 3 days of debate and argument and sleepless nights. The Council waited patiently in orbit. Their ship hung above Proxima 7 like a golden moon. Beautiful and terrible. Finally, President Kang Junho stood before the cameras again. This time, he was not alone. Admiral Park stood at his right side. Dr. Yoon Mirei stood at his left. Behind them stood representatives from every human world: soldiers, scientists, farmers, teachers, workers, ordinary people who had built extraordinary things. The president took a breath and spoke. To the Galaxy Council, he began. We thank you for your offer. We understand the protection and prosperity you promise. We have studied your terms carefully. We have considered them seriously. He paused. But we must respectfully decline. The words hung in the air like thunder. Humanity has come far, the president continued. We have made terrible mistakes. We have hurt ourselves and each other. We have nearly destroyed our own world, but we learned from those mistakes. We grew. We changed. And we did it ourselves, in our own way, in our own time. His voice grew stronger. We will not give away our ships. We will not give away our science. We will not give away our future. We will trade with anyone who wishes to trade fairly. We will talk with anyone who wishes to talk honestly. We will make friends with anyone who offers friendship. But we will not kneel. Not to you. Not to anyone. He looked directly into the camera. We are human. We make our own path. The broadcast ended. For a moment, the galaxy was silent. Then the council ship turned and vanished into the stars. And humanity waited to see what would happen next. 6 months passed after humanity refused the council's offer. At first, nothing happened. The alien ships disappeared from human borders. The golden vessel never returned. Some people began to hope that the council had accepted their decision. They were wrong. Captain Shin Yuna was the first to notice the changes. She commanded the patrol vessel, Resolve, a small ship that guarded the trade routes between Earth and the outer colonies. Every week, she watched cargo ships come and go, carrying food and medicine and equipment to the people who needed them. Then the ships stopped coming. Where is the stellar wind? She asked her crew one morning. It should have arrived yesterday. Her communications officer checked the logs. No signal, Captain. Nothing, for 3 days. Captain Shin sent out search parties. They found the stellar wind drifting in empty space. Its cargo holds empty. Its crew frightened but alive. The ship had been attacked by raiders. Fast ships with powerful weapons had surrounded them, taken everything, and vanished. Pirates, the stellar wind's captain said. At least, that's what they wanted us to think. Captain Shin examined the weapon damage on the hull. She had studied alien technology for years. She knew council weapons when she saw them. These aren't pirates, she said quietly. These are council ships. The attacks continued. Every week, another cargo ship disappeared. Every week, another colony sent desperate messages asking for supplies. Food grew scarce on the outer worlds. Medicine ran low. People began to suffer, but the Council never admitted involvement. They never made threats. They simply watched as humanity began to starve. President Kang Junho understood what was happening. "They won't attack us directly," he told his advisors. "That would make them look bad. Instead, they'll squeeze us slowly. They'll make life so hard that we'll beg them for help. And then, they'll offer us protected status again. And we'll be so desperate that we'll accept. What do we do?" Admiral Park asked. "We survive," the president said. "We adapt. We find another way." On Earth, Chief Engineer Baek Tae-ho was already working on another way. He was a small man, with messy hair and tired eyes. He had not slept more than 4 hours a night, in months. He lived in his laboratory, surrounded by computers and prototypes and empty coffee cups. Admiral Park visited him one evening. "I hear you have something to show me." Baek Tae-ho smiled for the first time in weeks. "I call it Project Jindo," he said. "After the dog breed. Loyal, fast, and impossible to catch." He led the admiral to a testing chamber. Inside was a small ship, barely large enough for one person. Standard human ships travel through space by bending it, Baek Tae-ho explained. "We push space behind us and pull it in front of us. The Council does the same thing, just better than we do. Their ships are faster because they have better engines." "So you built a better engine?" "No. I built a different engine." The engineer's eyes gleamed. "Project Jindo doesn't push or pull space. It skips across it, like a stone skipping across water. It's not faster in the traditional sense. It's faster because it takes shortcuts that other ships can't take." Admiral Park stared at the small ship. "How much faster?" "In tests? 5 times faster than our best ships, maybe 10 times faster than Council ships. And they won't be able to track it. Their sensors can't detect the skipping pattern." The admiral was quiet for a long moment. "How soon can you build more?" 6 months. Maybe less if I get more resources. You'll have everything you need. Everything." While Baek Tae-ho built his new engines, Dr. Yoon Mi-rae tried to find friends in unexpected places. The Council had 200 member species, but not all of them agreed with the Council's actions. Some were afraid to speak out. Others simply did not care about a distant species called humanity. But a few, a very few, were willing to listen. She met them in secret. A space station, in neutral territory. A hidden room, with no windows, and no records. 3 aliens sat across from her. A Vrelian, a reptilian Scalith, and a creature made of living crystal. "Why do you help us?" Dr. Yoon asked. The Vrelian answered. Its name was Kelith, and it spoke more gently than the ambassador who had first come to Earth. "Because we remember. My species accepted protected status 8,000 years ago. We were great once. We built ships that sailed between galaxies. Now we build nothing. We create nothing. We simply exist, under the Council's protection, until we fade away." The Scalith hissed softly. "The Council fears you because you grow too fast. You change too much. You do not know your place. And that is exactly why we hope you survive," Kelith said. "Because you might show us that there is another way." Dr. Yoon returned to Earth with valuable information but little hope. The Council would not stop. They could not stop. Humanity's refusal had embarrassed them in front of the entire galaxy. If they let humanity succeed, other species might refuse the Council too. The whole system would collapse, so the pressure continued. Pirates attacked more ships. Trade embargoes grew tighter. And then, the propaganda began. Across the galaxy, stories spread about humanity. They were primitive. They were violent. They had nearly destroyed their own planet with pollution and war. They could not be trusted. They were dangerous. They were a threat to galactic peace. Species that had never met humans began to fear them. Neutral worlds closed their borders. The few allies Dr. Yoon had found went silent. too afraid to be seen with humanity. Then the final message came. A council ship appeared at the edge of human space. It broadcast a single message to every human world. The Galaxy Council regrets that humanity has chosen isolation over cooperation. For the safety and stability of the galaxy, we must now take necessary measures. Humanity has 90 days to accept protected status. If they refuse, we will be forced to act. Quote, the message did not say what act meant. It did not need to. President Kang Junho addressed humanity that night. He stood alone before the cameras, looking tired but unbroken. They want us to be afraid, he said. They want us to give up. They think that if they push hard enough, we will break. He shook his head slowly. They do not know us. They have watched us for 300 years, but they do not understand us. He leaned forward. We did not come this far to kneel. We did not survive ice ages and plagues and wars to become someone's pet. We are human beings. We have walked on the moon. We have touched the stars. We have done impossible things, over and over again, because we refused to accept that they were impossible. His voice rose. 90 days. They give us 90 days to surrender. I say we give them 90 days to learn what humanity can do when we have nothing left to lose. The broadcast ended. Across human space, people looked at each other. Some were afraid. Some were angry. But all of them felt something else. Something that burned in their chests like a flame that would not go out. They were ready. The 90 days passed. Humanity did not kneel. On the 91st day, the Council fleet arrived. 3,000 ships came through the Kepler Gap, the main passage into human space. They filled the darkness between the stars like a river of light. Battleships, the size of mountains, carriers filled with fighter craft, support vessels carrying enough supplies for a war that could last years. It was the largest fleet the Council had assembled in 1,000 years. Admiral Park Do-hyun watched them come. He stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Unyielding, and counted the enemy ships on his screens. 3,000, against humanity's fleet of 400. The numbers were impossible. Sir, his tactical officer said quietly, what do we do? The admiral was calm. He had known this moment would come. He had prepared for it. We do what humans have always done, he said. We find a way to win. The Council fleet stopped at the edge of human space. They did not attack immediately. They formed a blockade, a wall of ships that nothing could pass through. Their message was clear. Surrender or starve. But Admiral Park had not spent the last 90 days sitting idle. While the Council gathered their fleet, he had gathered something else. Information. Director Oh Ji-won was the head of Human Intelligence Services. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and a memory that forgot nothing. She had spent her career learning secrets, and now she had learned the biggest secret of all. The Council's communications are encrypted, she told Admiral Park. But not well enough. We've been reading their messages for weeks, and we found something interesting. Number 2. We've been reading the well. We've been reading their messages. She showed him the files. Internal Council documents. Private conversations between Council leaders. Plans and strategies that they had never meant anyone to see. They're not united, Director Oh explained. At least 30 species don't want this war. They joined the blockade because they were afraid to refuse, but they don't want to fight. If we can show the galaxy what the Council really wants, then the blockade falls apart, Admiral Park finished. He smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. Release everything. Every document. Every conversation. Every lie they've ever told. Send it to every species in the galaxy. Director O nodded. It will be done within the hour. The leak hit the galaxy like a bomb. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds suddenly saw the truth. The Council had not offered humanity protection. They had offered a slow death. They had planned to drain human resources, suppress human technology, and reduce humanity to a shadow of what they could be. and they had done the same thing to dozens of other species before. The reaction was immediate. 3 neutral species withdrew their ships from the blockade. Then 5 more. Then 10. Council leaders sent furious messages demanding loyalty, but the damage was done. The galaxy was watching, and the council looked like tyrants, but the blockade held, reduced, shaken, but still powerful. 2,000 ships remained, more than enough to crush humanity's fleet. Then Admiral Park played his second card. Lieutenant Han Soo-jin was 28 years old. She was small and quiet and had never liked attention. But in a fighter cockpit, she became something else. She became a weapon. She led a squadron of 12 fighters, each one equipped with Baek Taeho's new Jindo drives. They were the fastest ships humanity had ever built. They were also completely untested in real combat. Ghost Squadron. Admiral Park's voice came through her communicator. You are clear for Operation Blindfold. Disable the enemy flagship's communications. No killing if you can avoid it. We want them scared, not angry. Lieutenant Han took a breath. Understood, sir. Ghost Squadron. Follow me. The 12 fighters vanished. The Council flagship was called the Eternal Light. It was a Vrelian vessel, 3 kilometers long, covered in golden armor, and bristling with weapons. It sat at the center of the blockade, coordinating all 2,000 ships through its communications array. One moment, the space around the Eternal Light was empty. The next moment, 12 human fighters appeared out of nowhere. They struck like lightning. Precise shots, disabled sensor dishes. Careful strikes, destroyed antenna arrays. In 45 seconds, they crippled the most powerful ship in the Council fleet without killing a single crew member. Then, they vanished again. The Council commanders panicked. They had never seen ships move like that. They had never seen weapons used with such precision. They sent fighters to chase the humans. But the humans were already gone, skipping across space in patterns that no Council sensor could follow. Lieutenant Han brought her squadron home without losing a single pilot. Ghost Squadron reporting, she said as she landed on the unyielding. Mission complete. Admiral Park met her on the flight deck. He did not smile often, but he smiled then. Well done, Lieutenant. You just changed this war. The news spread quickly. A dozen human fighters had blinded the Council flagship. The blockade was in chaos. The unstoppable Council fleet suddenly looked very stoppable indeed, but the battle was not over. Councillor Vreth, the Scalith leader who had pushed hardest for war, demanded action. He was a cold creature, with scales like black iron and eyes like yellow fire. He had built his career on strength and fear, and he refused to look weak. They are testing us, he hissed at the other Council leaders. They are children playing games. We must show them the price of defiance. The galaxy is watching, another counselor warned. If we attack too hard, then the galaxy will see what happens to those who defy us. Vreth snapped. Is that not the point? He gave the order himself. The Council fleet advanced. Admiral Park watched them come. He had 400 ships against 2,000. Even with the Jindo drives, even with the intelligence leaks, he was outnumbered 5-1. All ships, he said calmly. Execute defensive pattern Guangeto. Make them pay for every step. The Battle of the Kepler Gap began. Human ships darted through the enemy fleet like fish through a net. They appeared, struck, and vanished before the Council ships could react. Jindo drives let them skip across the battlefield instantly, hitting weak points and escaping before the enemy could respond. But the Council had numbers. For every ship the humans disabled, 3 more took its place. Slowly, steadily, the human fleet was pushed back. Captain Shin Yuna fought in the thick of it. Her ship, the Resolve, was too old for a Jindo drive. But she had spent 20 years learning how to fight with what she had. She led a group of old patrol vessels in a desperate defense of the human supply lines. We can't hold much longer, her first officer warned. Then we hold a little longer anyway, she replied. That's what we do. And they did. For hours, the human fleet held the line. They took losses. They suffered damage. But they did not break. Finally, as the fourth hour ended, Admiral Park gave a new order. All ships, fall back to secondary positions. Let them through. His officers stared at him. Sir? If we fall back, trust me, the Admiral said. This isn't over. It's just beginning. The human fleet retreated. The Council fleet advanced, battered but victorious. They thought they had won. They had no idea what was waiting for them. The Council fleet pushed deeper into human space. They had lost 300 ships in the battle, but they had won. The humans were retreating. Victory was close, or so they thought. Admiral Park Do-hyun had retreated, but he had not given up. He was waiting. The Council thought they understood humans because they had watched them for 300 years. They knew about human history, human technology, human biology, but they did not understand the human mind. They did not understand that humans were most dangerous when they had their backs against the wall. Specialist Choi Eun-ji understood. She was a communications officer on the Unyielding. Young and inexperienced but brilliant with codes and signals. While the fleet retreated, she sat at her station with her headphones on, listening to Council transmissions. Most of it was routine. Ship movements, supply requests, damage reports. But then she caught something strange. A transmission on a frequency she had never seen before. Heavily encrypted, bouncing between Council ships in a pattern that was designed to avoid detection. She worked on it for 6 hours straight. Her eyes burned. Her hands shook from too much coffee. But she did not stop. Finally, just as she was about to collapse, the encryption broke. She read the message. Then she read it again. Then she ran to Admiral Park. Sir, she said, breathless, you need to see this. The message was called Directive Zero. It was a contingency plan, created by Councillor Vreth and approved by the Council's inner circle. If the blockade failed, if humanity could not be forced to surrender, then Directive Zero would be activated. It called for the complete destruction of human colonies. Not capture, not occupation, destruction. Council ships would bombard human worlds from orbit until nothing was left alive. Men, women, children, all of them would die. The Council would tell the galaxy that humanity had threatened them with terrible weapons, that they had no choice. And then humanity would be gone, and no species would ever dare to defy the Council again. Admiral Park read the message 3 times. His face did not change, but his hands clenched into fists. How certain are you that this is real? He asked. Completely certain, sir, Specialist Choi said. I've verified the encryption keys. This came from Councillor Vreth's personal channel. The Admiral nodded slowly. Then we have a choice to make. We can keep this secret and prepare our defenses quietly. Or we can show the galaxy what the Council is planning. He thought for a long moment. Get me Commander No Hyunwoo. Commander No led the Ghost Division, humanity's special operations unit. His soldiers were the best of the best, trained for impossible missions behind enemy lines. He was a quiet man with gray hair and scars on his hands. He had been fighting since he was 17 years old. He had never lost a mission. I need you to broadcast this message to the entire galaxy, Admiral Park told him. Not just human space. Everywhere. Every species. Every world. Everyone needs to see what the Council is planning. Commander No studied the Directive Zero file. The Council will try to stop us. They'll jam our signals, destroy our transmitters. Then don't use our transmitters. Use theirs. The commander smiled slightly. It was not a pleasant smile. Operation Sunlight, he said. We infiltrate Council space and broadcast from their own relay stations. They won't be able to jam themselves. Can you do it? Commander No stood up. Give me 20 soldiers in 12 hours. The galaxy will know the truth. The Ghost Division moved like shadows. 12 small ships with Jindo drives slipped past the Council blockade and scattered across the galaxy. Each ship carried a team of soldiers and a copy of Directive Zero. Each team had one mission: reach a council relay station, take control, and broadcast. They struck simultaneously. 20 relay stations across the galaxy suddenly began transmitting the same message. Council commanders tried to shut them down, but the Ghost Division held them long enough. 60 seconds was all they needed. Directive Zero spread across the stars like fire. The reaction was immediate and violent. Species that had supported the Council for thousands of years suddenly demanded answers. How could you plan genocide? How could you destroy an entire species just for refusing to submit? What kind of civilization does such things? Councillor Vreth tried to deny it. He claimed the document was a fake, a human trick. But Director OG-1 had prepared for that. She released the encryption keys, the transmission logs, the metadata that proved the document was real. She released recordings of council meetings where leaders discussed Directive Zero calmly, like they were planning a business deal instead of mass murder. The Aelori were the first to break. They were one of the oldest species in the council, one of the founding members. Their leader, Elder Calith, was ancient even by Aelori standards, a being of crystal and light who had seen civilizations rise and fall. She had supported the council for 10,000 years. Now she stood before the galaxy and spoke. "We joined the council to bring peace and prosperity to the stars," she said. Her voice was like wind chimes, beautiful and sad. "We did not join to commit genocide. We did not join to murder children because they dared to be free. The Aelori will not participate in this. We withdraw our ships from the blockade. We withdraw our support from this council." 12 more species followed. Then 20. Then 30. The blockade that had held 2,000 ships now held barely 1,200. And every hour, more ships left. Councillor Vreth was furious. He called the defectors traitors and cowards. He threatened them with punishment. But his threats only drove more species away. The council was breaking apart. And then he made his final mistake. "If they will not help us," he hissed to his loyal commanders, "then we will do it ourselves. Send 4 ships to the human colony of New Busan. Show them what defiance costs." 4 council warships broke from the fleet and raced toward New Busan. It was a small colony, only 200,000 people. Farmers and miners and families who had come to build a new life far from Earth. They had almost no defenses. Admiral Park received the warning with 12 minutes to spare. 12 minutes to save 200,000 lives. "Lieutenant Han," he said immediately, "take Ghost Squadron. Stop those ships." Lieutenant Han Sujin was already running to her fighter. The admiral hesitated for just a moment. The council ships were going to bomb civilians. They deserved to be destroyed. No one would blame him. But that was not who humans were. That was not who they wanted to be. "Disable them if you can," he said. "Destroy them only if you must. And if you capture anyone alive, treat them well. Let them see what mercy looks like." Ghost Squadron reached New Busan with 2 minutes to spare. The 4 council ships were already in attack position. Weapons charged, ready to rain fire on the colony below. Lieutenant Han hit them like a thunderbolt. Her squadron disabled 2 ships in the first pass, crippling their engines and weapons with precise strikes. The 3rd ship tried to flee, and was caught by her wingman. The 4th ship surrendered before a single shot was fired. Not one bomb fell on New Busan. The prisoners were taken to the colony. They expected torture. They expected execution. Instead, they were given food, medical care, and clean beds. The colonists of New Busan, the very people they had come to murder, treated them with kindness. "Why?" one prisoner asked a human doctor who was treating his wounds. "We came to kill you. Why don't you hate us?" The doctor finished bandaging his arm and looked at him calmly. "Because hate is what brought you here. We're trying to build something different." The prisoners were allowed to send messages home. They told their families what had happened. They told them about human mercy. They told them that everything the council had said about humans was wrong, and the galaxy listened. President Kang Junho made a single statement that night. He stood before the cameras, looking tired but unbroken. "We do not wish to be your enemies," he said, "but we will never be your servants. We did not start this war. We will not surrender in it, but we are willing to end it, if you are willing to see us as equals." The message was broadcast across the galaxy. Species that had feared humanity began to reconsider. Perhaps the humans were not monsters after all. Perhaps they were just people who wanted to be free. The Council's blockade was crumbling. Their fleet was shrinking. Their allies were abandoning them. And their greatest weapon, fear, was no longer working. Councillor Vreth stared at the reports and felt something he had never felt before. He felt afraid. The blockade collapsed on the 63rd day. It did not end with a great battle. It ended with silence. One by one, Council ships turned away from human space and went home. Their captains had seen enough. Their crews had heard enough. They did not want to fight for leaders who planned genocide and called it peace. Councillor Vreth sent furious orders demanding they return. Most ships ignored him. Those that obeyed found themselves alone, surrounded by empty space, where thousands of allies should have been. By the end of the week, only 300 ships remained. 300 out of 3,000. The Council called an emergency session. For the first time in centuries, they were truly afraid, not of humanity's weapons, not of humanity's ships. They were afraid because humanity had done something no species had ever done before. Humanity had won without conquering. They had beaten the greatest fleet in the galaxy not by destroying it, but by telling the truth. They had defended their colonies not by slaughtering their enemies, but by showing mercy. They had protected their freedom not by becoming monsters, but by remaining human. And now the galaxy was asking a dangerous question. If humans can do this, why can't we? Elder Kalith of the Alori spoke first at the council session. Her crystal form glowed with soft light as she addressed the assembly. "We have spent 10,000 years building this council," she said. "We told ourselves that we were bringing order to the galaxy. We told ourselves that we were protecting weaker species from themselves. But look at what we have become. We threaten genocide against children. We crush anyone who dares to be different. We call it protection, but it is prison." She turned to face Councillor Vreth. "You asked us to destroy humanity because they would not kneel. But I look at them, and I see what we used to be. I see courage. I see hope. I see a future." Her voice grew hard. "I look at you, Councillor, and I see only fear." Vreth tried to speak, but other voices rose against him. Species that had been silent for centuries suddenly found their courage. They demanded justice. They demanded change. They demanded his removal. The vote was overwhelming. Councillor Vreth was stripped of his position and sent to face a tribunal for authorizing Directive 0. He walked out of the chamber in silence, his scales dull, his eyes empty. He had spent his whole life building power through fear. Now he had nothing. But removing Vreth was not enough. The council itself was broken. Too many species had lost faith. Too many had seen the truth behind the golden promises. The old order was dying. Something new needed to take its place. President Kang Junho received the message 3 days later. 18 species wanted to meet with humanity. They did not want to join the council. They did not want humanity to join the council. They wanted something different. Something better. "What do we do?" Admiral Park asked. The president thought for a long moment. "We build." Dr. Yun Mirai led the negotiations. She had spent her career studying alien languages and cultures, trying to find common ground between different species. Now she had the chance to create something that had never existed before. An alliance, based on choice, instead of force. They met on a space station in neutral territory, far from Council space and far from Earth. Representatives from 18 species sat around a long table. They were all different. Some had scales, some had feathers, some had no bodies at all, just patterns of light and thought. But they all wanted the same thing: freedom. "The Council offers protection," Dr. Yoon said. "But the price is your soul. They take your ships, your science, your future. They turn you into something safe and small and obedient. And they call it peace." She looked around the table. "We offer something different. We offer partnership. True partnership. Between equals. No one gives up their fleet. No one gives up their technology. No one gives up their freedom. We trade fairly. We talk honestly. We help each other when we can. And we stay out of each other's way when we can't." A crystalline Ilori leaned forward. "And if we are attacked? If the Council sends another fleet? Then we defend each other," Dr. Yoon said simply. "Not because we have to, because we choose to." The negotiations lasted 3 weeks. There were arguments and disagreements. Some species wanted more structure. Others wanted less. Some trusted humanity completely. Others were still afraid. But slowly, carefully, they built something together. They called it the Kepler Compact. It was not an empire. It was not a federation. It was a promise. A promise that free species could work together without giving up what made them free. A promise that strength did not require submission. A promise that the galaxy could be better than it had been. The Ilori signed first. Elder Kalith pressed her crystalline hand to the document and spoke the words of binding. The Ilori joined the Kepler Compact of their own free will. "We pledge friendship and support. We keep our freedom and respect yours." 17 more species followed. Each one different. Each one free. Each one choosing to stand together. Admiral Park Do-hyun watched the ceremony from the back of the room. He had spent his life preparing for war. He had never expected to see peace. Captain Shin Yuna stood beside him. "What happens now?" she asked. The admiral smiled slightly. "Now we prove that this can work. We trade with them. We learn from them. We show the galaxy that there's another way. And if the Council attacks again, then we defend ourselves. Together." President Kang Junho promoted Captain Shin to admiral and gave her command of the 1st Joint Patrol Fleet human ships, serving alongside Ilori cruisers and vessels from a dozen other species. A promise made real. Chief Engineer Baek Tae-ho shared the Jindo drive technology with Compact members. Not all of it. Humanity kept some secrets, but enough to make the Compact fleet faster and stronger than anything the Council could build. It was a gift freely given, and it bound the Compact together with gratitude and trust. Lieutenant Han Soo-jin and Commander No Hyun-woo received humanity's highest honors for their service. They stood on a stage in front of millions, uncomfortable with the attention but proud of what they had done. They had fought not to conquer but to protect. They had shown the galaxy what humanity could be. 1 year later, President Kang Junho stood before an assembly that would have been impossible 12 months before. Behind him hung the flags of the Kepler Compact, 23 species now, with more asking to join every month. Beside him stood Admiral Park and Dr. Yoon, and representatives from every Compact world. The Galaxy Council still existed. 140 species remained under their protection, comfortable in their cages. But they were weaker now, uncertain, afraid of what the future might bring. And across the galaxy, species that had never dared to hope were beginning to dream. 1 year ago, President Kang said, the Galaxy Council offered humanity protection. They offered us safety and prosperity and a place among the stars. All we had to do was kneel. He paused. We said no. The audience was silent. They thought we were fools. They thought we would beg for their help when times got hard. They thought we would break. He shook his head slowly. They didn't understand us. They had watched us for 300 years, but they never understood what makes us human. We are not the strongest species in the galaxy. We are not the oldest or the wisest. But we have something that they forgot how to have. He looked out at the faces before him, human faces and alien faces, all of them free. We have hope. His voice grew stronger. We hope for better things. We hope for a galaxy where species are partners instead of servants. We hope for a future where strength comes from friendship, not fear. That hope is what brought us here. That hope is what will take us forward. He stepped back from the podium. They offered us protection. We offered ourselves freedom. Today, we offer that same freedom to anyone brave enough to take it. The chamber erupted in applause. Humans and aliens stood together, cheering for something new. Something that had never existed before. The Galaxy Council had expected humanity to submit or be destroyed. They never expected humanity to build something better. And across the stars, in 1,000 different languages, beings looked up at the sky and began to believe that maybe, just maybe, they could be free too. The story of humanity was just beginning.